And what happens is this board gets so hot that it actually Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Runcam Split 2S. Now this is the latest split camera that's released from Runcam. Now I did have the first ever generation, or the first one they've ever released, which was absolutely terrible. I bought two of them and they didn't work great at all, and actually they didn't work at all. They just kept getting frozen. So this one I've decided to set up on my newest long range testing setup, which is the Zohd Orbit here. And what I did before actually installing, I've designed and 3D printed a part just to fit it in the front here to keep it overall in a good place, and then just mount the camera in with a little tape on the front, and I was good to go. And you'll see the footage in a little bit. But now let's start talking about a couple things that happened. One thing, as you can tell, why is this 3D printed part so crappy, you might say? Well, actually it's not. It was 100% perfect. And what happens is this board gets so hot that it actually melts and warps this plastic. I mean, if I boot it up right now for 2 minutes and then just take it back out, I could move this like it's basically about to melt, which is crazy. Now, the first couple things that I did with this when I first received it was I plugged in the battery, because I did not change any settings. As soon as you plug in the battery, it'll start recording. It'll give you 2 initialization beeps and then 1 beep that it started recording. And once you unplug it, it'll stop recording by itself. So that's really nice. You don't have to reach out for any of those buttons, which is something that I really loved. Now, when I did notice that, what I did is I wanted to see how reliable is it. So I did that 50 times. Plug in the battery, initialization beep, recording beep, 1 to 2 seconds, unplug. And I did that 50 times, and then I came to the SD card to see if I had any corrupt data, which I didn't, and that was my first official test of me starting to build trust in this. Now, when I went to plug in the VTX, I was actually going to take the power from the VTX, and I was taking 5 volts. Now, this thing could take up to 15 volts here. And I was about to put it on raw 4S, which would have been a terrible idea, and I would have burned it. So I highly recommend you stick a 5, 9, or 12 volt regulator to this, no battery power, because battery power can have some voltage spikes with a huge inrush of current, depending on if you crashed or not, and can possibly burn this, and that won't be covered by the warranty possibly, because that is just I don't think it will, but I mean, on the paper they say you have like a really good warranty here, if I remember. We'll come back to that later. Anyways, so when I plugged it in, I had the Hakcrc FX3, which is a really small new VTX from Hakcrc. Now, it does have a 5 volt regulator on board, but it's not the biggest. It's not the best 5 volt regulator on board. This thing was pulling about an amp from that thing. So that VTX was a really tiny VTX broadcasting at 25 milliwatts in my shop, and I just couldn't touch it because it was so hot. I was like, why the hell is it getting so hot here? And then I realized how much amperage this thing's actually taking, and then I started to I plugged it into something else here. I got basically a bigger VTX with a bigger regulator on board, and plugged it in, and come to my surprise, I come to take out the board, and I can see this all being just warping. This board gets so hot and it sucks so much amperage that you have to be careful or consider where you're going to be placing it. Now, if you let's just say you had a flight controller with a 5 volt regulator that's rated up to 1 amp, and you're going to be powering your camera, or sorry, not camera, you're going to be powering your receiver. What else do you power? LEDs. What else can you power? Let's just say camera and LEDs for now. You'll probably overload the regulator and start having issues, and you possibly even burn the regulator or fry it because this thing takes so much amperage. However, once you increase the voltage, it takes less amp. So for example, it's stating that at 12 volts, this thing takes roughly 270 milliamps. So let's just say 300 milliamps. So if you had a 12 volt regulator, a 1 amp 12 volt regulator, then that would be very smart too. It's fine to use it. And if you had a 5 volt regulator, I think you would need a minimum of 2 amps. That the regulator on board is actually rated for 2 amps. So it might be say 3 amps, but it's actually at 2 amps. That's when I would connect this to 5 volts. I did connect it to a 5 volt, and it was just barely getting toasty. I used a pretty really nice actually VTX, because I switched out to Hakcrc because it just couldn't handle the power draw from this. I use this one. It's the XUAV. It has a fat heatsink 5-volt regulator on board, which is what I thought would be the best for the setup. And to be honest, it was. I broadcasting 200 milliwatts heatsink, had it nice and cooled, and everything was fine. I didn't have any issues. So that's something that I had to do here, and you should definitely take note of. This board gets pretty damn toasty. Some of the cons that I don't like about this. I wish the cable was a bit more flexible. That's one thing. And maybe, I don't know why they use this type of connector. I wish they could have probably just used a regular type of connector. Maybe they can't, but maybe they can. I think it would have been a little bit better, but this is kind of like a PCB, a flex PCB here, wire to carry the current. And I don't know if it's replaceable. They do not provide you with an extra one. But the connection looks really, really stable, really rigid here if you take a look here. So they're using screws in the metal to hold it into place. So that's something really nice. It is somewhat susceptible to noise because I don't have a very noisy setup. And the Runcams are really, Split are really susceptible to noise a lot more than other cameras. But that will not translate into the HD footage, which is something really nice. Now, speaking of the HD footage, how was it? Well, what I can tell you is the wide dynamic range on it was really great. But it feels over sharpened and grainy with some noise, not the noise that the FPV video noise, the noise when a sensor is, you know, when there's low light and then you could see that grainy stuff. That's the type of noise. I could kind of see it, but it wasn't that dark out. But I mean, and again, I wasn't flying in the best colored environment. Everything was in real life was really just gray because of the clouds and the weather, how it's turning, because we're gonna have snow very soon. So the weather is not the best weather to actually get its full performance, but it's a really nice test to give you an idea what to expect in such weather. Because right now, obviously, most of us are hitting into winter. The DVR, the footage coming down to my goggles was amazing. I mean, it was really nice. I can't explain it. It was one of the best cameras. Like, for example, in that type of weather that I took this out and I used a normal Runcam Swift or some just normal generic HS1177, you know, like a Foxy or that, it would have been a lot darker and a little bit more difficult to see things. But with this, I was able to even notice my lost, I actually found my lost airplane with this through the DVR, which was really nice. I was able to pick that out. Barely pick it up, but I was able to pick that out. But with another camera, I wouldn't have been able to pick that out, and I can guarantee you that. So that was something that I really liked. So that's one of the things that I liked. Also, and again, just take note of the heat and the amount of power this thing takes. You really have to calculate what you're using, especially, for example, if you're going to be putting them both on a 12-volt regulator, your VTX in this, just make sure, see how much amperage your VTX takes at the power level that you're broadcasting at, so you can calculate how much the regulator on your flight controller all-in-one board can actually withstand before having issues, because you don't want to lose your VTX in your camera while you're flying, and possibly some other things also. So you kind of want to just avoid that and just be careful with that. So take that into consideration. Overall, it's a really nice solution than to have an HD cam. Latency, I will be running latency testing on the oscilloscope in the upcoming days. But first, I want to finish my iNav build here. Hopefully, I don't wreck it before doing the test, because this might get wrecked if that crashes pretty hard. But overall, it's really nice. I'm building somewhat of trust in it. It's gotten 10 flights so far. Obviously, I still need more time, and to have it be my candidate for my iNav long range testing build is something pretty good. And it's also going to give us its longevity and see how well it performs. I mean, I think that's really the right way to do this. But currently, I just wanted to make a quick update video that the HD footage is actually usable, 1080p, 60 frames a second. I'll have a link down below. You can check the complete specs. We'll also have them soft mounted, so you can soft mount it, which is pretty crazy. And it does come with the USB, the Wi-Fi USB here. You plug in the USB and then it gives it Wi-Fi, so you can access it through your phone and check some things. I am not using this, and I won't be using this, but if you wanted to, you can do that. For me, I just don't care. For me, what I really love is I just leave the SD card in there, boot up my thing. That's one less thing for me to worry about, and I know I'm recording HD footage and I'm getting my beautiful video feed, which is really good. So I think this one is a huge step up than the previous models, because their previous models were absolute shit, in my opinion. Sorry for being so harsh, but this is a proper one. This is one that I would almost recommend, and time will tell, and I'll let you know in the upcoming days once I finish this and go out flying a little bit more with this and building a lot more trust. And, well, that's going to conclude it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to leave you with the HD footage with the audio so you can see how this performed in the current weather conditions and the current lighting conditions. And we're going to be seeing a little bit more of this later on. And, well, that's it, guys. If you guys like this video, please leave a thumbs up and please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.